Have you ever faced with such kind of problems which you thought was impossible to solve? I'm sure that everyone who is listening this now has, whether it problems at school or at work, lack of money, or even breakup. For instance, let's take a moment to recall the school year, the hardest time, the finals. I'm sure that at least once you had been cramming for exam quite a lot of time and you were sure that you will have the highest result. However, out of the blue, you just failed your exam. You see this terrible result. And now let's remember the emotions that you felt at that moment. You were shattered. Undoubtedly, you didn't know what you needed to do because you can't change the situation anymore. I hope you felt those emotions, but I don't want to scare you. What I'm trying to show is that everyone has experienced such emotions through life. And sometimes life can be really cruel toward us, so we may be desperate. I'm not a psychologist, I'm just a 17-year-old teenage girl, so you might think that I can't speak about a hard situation in front of you now, but actually, I do know what I'm saying right now. And it's not about some exam results or argument with my parents. When we getting to know people, we always ask typical questions like, what is your name? Do you have any hobbies? And where are you from? The answers are simple, but not for me, because my hometown is Mariupol. It's a lovely city near the Sea of Azov. Here you can find a lot of beautiful architectures and different places to visit, and my favorite place is the sea. It's so magnificent and that sometimes it seems to be infinite. And one of my favorite things to do is sit on the warm cold sand and watch the rippling waves. But actually, it was one of my favorite things. February 2022 completely changed everything. The Russians invaded my country. They invaded my home. I witnessed how they were destroying my city. I saw their planes dropping bombs on civilians and ruining everything. So the full-scale invasion completely changed the meaning of this question for me. In March 2022, I saw my city for the last time. I heard a lot of explosions and scream. I saw a lot of tanks and planes, but these flashbacks are slowly being forgotten. What hurts me the most is my warm memories about life before, which means life before the war started, which I'm afraid to forget and which is so hard to recall. I still remember every detail of my big cozy house where I spent my entire childhood with my pets and parents. Sometimes I even imagine myself sitting there, but then reality comes to mind that there is no home anymore. Russians destroyed it, and it only left in my warm memories about my life before. Life seemed to be ruined, and nothing could help me. I constantly was thinking about my life before, my life in Mariupol, and I wanted just one to get my life back. And nothing have changed in my life. There was no magic or time machine that took me back in time, and I also just couldn't come to terms. It was impossible to continue live my life like that. Every day I see a lot of terrible things which happens with people in my country because of the war, and Ukrainian soldiers who are fighting for Ukraine, who are fighting for our future. They are also fighting for me to laugh with my friends, to cry, to create something, to try something, to travel, and to do such a lot of great things. So sometimes we didn't even notice that someone is giving their life to make tomorrow happen. So I started changing my life view and began to think about my existence in the present moment. I don't know what is going to happen next month, next week, or even tomorrow. So sometimes we forget to live our happy lives right now. We have problems at university, problems at work, or at school. However, our life is short. It's sad, but it's fact. So we don't have a time for self-pity or suffering. We need to start living life now. And if someone had told me this a year ago, I would just say that it's a bullshit, because nobody can understand my problem or my pain. But it's the wrong opinion. So right now, I want to help you to fight at least with one of your problems. So let's recall the beginning of my speech when I asked you about your failure at the exam. I'm sure that you recall something similar in your life. Maybe it was a long time ago, so you can barely remember it. Or it was a couple of months ago. So now I want you to recall your emotions after this failure. For instance, if we're talking about finals, recall the moment when you have entered the university and you started your studying. At that time, were you still thinking about your exam result? I think I can answer instead of you. By the time, you have probably forgotten about failure at your exam. But what about the problems you're facing now? Right now, if you have such an issue, start thinking about it. It's uncomfortable and painful, and you don't want to think about it. Then, recall your emotions when you failed an exam and were just overwhelmed by the results, not knowing what to do with it. Now, compare these feelings. You feel something similar, don't you? You resigned yourself that you didn't pass the exam then, which means that you are sure to find a way out of problems that you are facing now and problems that you will have in the future. So you will find a solution and you will accept even the most painful moments in your life that keeps you from moving on right now. So the answer to my question is that there is no secret method to fight your problem right now. There is no secret recipe to overcome your problem in a moment, but it's not worth your suffering. Robert Schuller once said, "Problems are not stop signs, they are guidelines." You need to look at your life situation from another perspective. Think of some lessons that you have learned, or changed, or are going to change. Maybe it was one of the most important moments in your life. I do know that it's hard, but you need to take some courage in both hands and just to let go your hard moments and to continue live your life. And a little example of looking at the situation from another side, from my own life experience. I will lie if I say that I let go my issue. I still miss my home. I want badly to live at least one day from my life before, but it's impossible. And as time goes by, it gets more easier to accept the reality. Because of the war, I continued my life in a new city, in Kiev. And I started creating warm memories here. I found a lot of new friends. I started trying something new. I entered an university here. I do not say that it's the best that could happen to my life, because I don't know another version of my life path. Maybe I would have lived in Mariupol. Maybe I would have moved from Mariupol in search of career opportunities, or maybe I would have died because of Russians. It sounds harsh, but unfortunately, it's our reality right now. So I started looking to the positive sides, and it helped me a lot. And I'm sure that the time will pass. Maybe a couple of years, maybe a couple of months. And it will be much more easier to speak about my hometown. And I'm completely sure that the flag of my country will rise over my city again, and I will come back to my hometown, to my Mariupol, and to my favorite sea. So sometimes we ask ourselves, why our life is so cruel? Why it happened to me? But actually, you won't get an answer. Nobody will. But your life hasn't stopped because of these problems. So, to sum up, you need to stop crying over spilled milk, because you will find a solution from every situation, and this situation only will make you more stronger than you are. So when you overcome the next problem you are facing now, I want you to recall me, whom you may not believe right now, because after that, you will fully comprehend my speech.